The best guy I played against might have been, Larry Bird, someone
Yeah.
like that.
How good was
Michael
Bird?
Jordan.
People, I don't think people
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 don't
look at
appreciate.
him and think,
Yeah, they
oh, he's
said,
a
"Oh
white
no,
guy,
it's
slow guy.
the chubby white guy." He wore us out, man. Because he just this muscle here, the one between his ears.
Yeah.
That was his best, because he made the 3 pointers and he had assists and rebounded, steals. He was always at the right place at the right time on the court. One of the great players I had the opportunity to play against.
Larry Bird did something to NBA legends that LeBron James has never pulled off. He shook them to their core. Not just nerves, not just pressure, but real fear. Legends didn't just prepare for Bird, they braced themselves. Magic Johnson openly said Bird was the only guy who made his hands shake before tip-off. Michael Jordan admitted Bird was the one opponent who truly got into his mind. Gary Payton labeled him the most dangerous trash talker alive. And now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has finally confirmed what everyone whispered but never dared to say loud. Bird rattled people in a way LeBron never has. Bird hit a level of greatness that even with LeBron's titles, records, milestones, and longevity, still stands in its own lane. When a man who battled Bird in a real time and watched LeBron's entire career play out says that, people stop and listen because he's seen both eras, both styles, and both mentalities. And once you hear why Kareem thinks this, you'll understand why the legends still talk about Bird like he walked into arenas with something almost supernatural around him. What makes this even more interesting is Kareem isn't one of those older players stuck complaining about "my era was tougher." He respects LeBron big time. He's praised LeBron's consistency, maturity, leadership, and his wild 21-season run. But when Kareem breaks down what separates Bird from LeBron, he's talking about something deeper than stats, deeper than trophies, something rooted in the heart of competition itself. Bird didn't just dominate basketball, he haunted it. And Kareem says there's a major difference between being the best player on the floor and being the player everyone fears the most. One makes you great, the other makes you unforgettable. Think about who's saying this. Kareem went toe-to-toe with Wilt Chamberlain in the 70s, one of the most powerful athletes ever. He survived the Bird and Magic war zone in the 80s, an era many call the purest form of basketball. Then he shifted into coaching and analysis, watching LeBron's entire journey from 2003 all the way to now. 5 decades of basketball history passed through that man's eyes, and nobody alive has a wider view of how the game grew and changed. So when someone with that background says Bird had something LeBron hasn't captured, you don't call it nostalgia, you pay attention. Kareem felt Bird's mind games up close. He remembers how the whole energy of an arena changed the second Bird walked in. Teams didn't just game plan for Bird, they treated him like a 5-man problem wrapped into one player. And here's the wildest part. Kareem once described Bird in a way that still gives people chills. He said Bird wasn't playing basketball the same way others were. He played chess while everyone else was playing checkers. And that wasn't just a cool line, it was truth. Bird saw plays forming before defenders even realized what set they were in. He read the floor like he had tomorrow's script in his hands. Guys would swear they locked him down, then he'd pull off some impossible angle shot or fire a pass nobody even saw coming. Bird's basketball IQ didn't look human. It felt like he was tapping into the game at a different speed. And the craziest part, he'd tell you what he was about to do, then do it anyway while laughing in your face. That kind of mental control doesn't show up in the numbers, but everybody from that era says the same thing. Bird got in your head and refused to leave. Now compare that to LeBron. LeBron isn't a mind game guy, he's a preparation monster. He studies opponents like he's preparing for an exam. He memorizes playbooks, habits, coaching patterns, and players' tendencies until he knows their weaknesses better than they do. When game day hits, LeBron has already run the whole puzzle in his head. He treats basketball like a chess match he solved hours earlier. It's incredibly effective, and it's why he's stayed elite for so long. 2 decades is wild, but here's what Kareem spotted. LeBron earns your respect, while Bird made dudes straight up fear showing up to the arena. Those are 2 totally different psychological battles. When Bird stepped onto the floor, guys felt real tension in their chest because they knew he wasn't just trying to win. He was aiming for their spirit. When LeBron steps in, opponents tighten their game plan and focus, but it's not that same "I might get embarrassed tonight" type of pressure. Both mindsets produce wins, but only one leaves retired legends shaking their heads years later like they still can't believe what they survived. And when you look at the eras themselves, that's where Kareem's argument hits a whole different level. The 1980s, Bird's territory, was straight up violent compared to today. Hand checking was fully legal, so defenders could grab, shove, and redirect you without a whistle. The bad boy Pistons didn't just defend, they attacked the person in front of them. Teams like the Sixers and Lakers played physical every single night, and nobody apologized for it. Every possession cost energy, bruises, and toughness just to get a clean shot. Bird didn't just survive that environment, he owned it. Detroit would knock him down, Philly would hit him with elbows, and he'd show up the next night like his body didn't even register the damage. He'd walk in with that same calm face, drop 30, and talk trash like nothing touched him. Kareem remembers these wars clearly because he was in the middle of them. He saw Bird's body take punishment that would send today's players to rehab, and Bird kept going despite back problems, nerve issues, and constant pain. But he kept averaging nearly 38 minutes per night for 10 straight seasons with no load management, no strategic rest days, just pure stubborn grit and a mind that refused to let his body slow down. And the numbers back it up. This wasn't some old school myth people made up later. From 1984 to 1986, Bird put up 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists a night while shooting almost 50% from the field and 40% from deep. 3 MVPs in a row, 3 rings in 5 years, all while battling Hall of Fame squads like Magic and Kareem's Lakers, Dr. J's Sixers, and Isaiah Thomas's Pistons. That's not just dominance, that's dominance in the toughest setting basketball has ever seen. Now compare that to LeBron's world. When he came into the league in 2003, the game was already shifting. Global, polished, business-driven, and built to protect stars. Rules started changing to boost scoring, entertainment, and longevity. Hand checking was banned in 2004, and defensive 3 seconds became strict, opening huge driving lanes. Refs began calling fouls on almost any strong contact, and the NBA started rewarding speed, space, and athleticism instead of physical intimidation. Kareem doesn't think LeBron caused this, it's just where basketball was headed, but he finds it fascinating how perfectly LeBron's gifts synced with this new era. LeBron's mix of size, explosiveness, control, and vision became nearly impossible to defend in a league where you couldn't grab him, bump him, or slow him down physically. And here's where Kareem's point gets really sharp. LeBron's crazy longevity, him still dominating deep into his 40s, isn't only about being built like a superhero. It's also because the era fits him perfectly, from spacing to rules to training resources. Kareem sees that as the beauty of evolution, but he also knows Bird didn't benefit from anything like that, yet still became the most feared player of his time. It's not just about LeBron's discipline, it's the entire machine built around modern stars. Advanced nutrition, recovery science, cold therapy, sleep tracking, load management, injury prevention tech. All of it is designed to stretch careers in ways that simply didn't exist during Bird's era. Teams now roll with full medical units, private charter flights with lay-flat seats, and schedules shaped around rest and recovery instead of grinding players into the ground. Bird played in a completely different world. Teams flew commercial, squeezed into regular flights with the public, practiced the day after getting banged up, and sports science meant sticking your knees into a bucket of ice and hoping you could walk the next day. LeBron benefits from a system built to protect stars and keep them productive, and his dedication to his body is impressive, but it's also a luxury Bird never touched. So when people argue LeBron's 21 seasons prove he's tougher than Bird lasting 13, Kareem steps in and challenges that idea. He asks the real questions. What would Bird's prime look like with modern medicine? What if he had access to today's surgeries, imaging, and treatments? What if he didn't have to survive 82-game seasons in a league where opponents actually tried to take you out physically? Bird's body broke down at 35, not because he lacked toughness, but because he paid a price that would sound wild by today's standards. LeBron is still hooping at 40 because the league protects stars in ways Bird could never imagine. Both careers are special, but the context changes everything. One career was built by surviving a war, the other by running a marathon with one of the most advanced support systems sports has ever created. Now let's talk numbers, because even though Kareem says stats don't tell the entire story, they still paint a pretty sharp picture. Larry Bird played only 13 seasons, and in that time he averaged 24.3 points, 10 rebounds, and 6.3 assists, elite numbers that still hold weight today. His shooting efficiency was next level, around 50% from the field, nearly 38% from deep, and almost 89% from the line. He was one of the first players ever to flirt with the iconic 50-40-90 mark, a club that remains rare even in today's spacing-heavy game. Kareem remembers how teams didn't just worry about Bird scoring, they dreaded his control over the entire flow of a game. Every rebound felt like the start of a fast break because Bird turned outlet passes into weapons. Every possession was calculated and sharp, nothing thrown away or wasted. His whole style ran like a mastermind running a full operation on the court. LeBron's resume obviously stretches across an entire generation. 21 seasons of production. He's averaged around 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists while shooting 50% from the floor. He's a 4-time MVP, a 4-time champion, and the all-time scoring leader, breaking a record Kareem himself held for decades. Those accomplishments are massive, and Kareem respects them. He has said the level of discipline needed to stay elite for that long is something most players can't even imagine. But when Kareem digs deeper, he also notices how the modern style inflates raw numbers. Pace is way higher. Teams today average around 100 possessions per game, while Bird's era floated around 95. More possessions mean more scoring chances, more rebounds, more assists. It's just math, nothing sneaky about it, and it explains why comparing eras strictly by counting stats can get messy. What impresses Kareem most about Bird is his efficiency when the heat turned all the way up. In playoff elimination games, when everything was on the line and the pressure was crushing, Bird's numbers actually climbed. 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists. He always saved his sharpest performances for moments when the entire season hung by a thread. And in Game 7's, Bird shot over 50%, showing he was built for the biggest moments and refused to shrink when every possession mattered. Bird rarely turned the ball over, and Kareem loves that detail because it shows Bird's greatness came from timing, control, and understanding the moment, not just high-volume scoring. Bird didn't need the ball every possession. He only needed it when the game was on the line, and once it hit crunch time, he took over like he owned the place. LeBron has had legendary postseason runs too, no question about that. The 2012, 2016, and 2020 championships showed how dominant he can be, but there were also stretches where defenses packed the paint, dared him to shoot, and his efficiency dipped when those jumpers weren't falling. That's where Kareem sees a real difference between their styles. Then the durability debate gets messy because Bird's career ended at 35 due to chronic back pain that made it impossible for him to keep going. Meanwhile, LeBron is still hooping at 40 and performing at an all-star level, which on the surface looks like LeBron is simply tougher or more committed. But Kareem doesn't buy that simple narrative at all. He points straight at how the entire league structure changed. Modern players fly private, have luxury travel, and recover in ways Bird never could imagine. Teams today have big medical staffs ready to handle injuries before they become career-destroying issues. And even though the NBA schedule is still demanding, it has more built-in rest and far less physical punishment than Bird ever dealt with. Bird's 13 seasons took place in an NBA that asked for more contact, more punishment, and way less recovery time. LeBron's 21 seasons have unfolded in a league shaped by scientific advancements and a commitment to protecting star players. To Kareem, the real question isn't who lasted longer, it's who did the most with what the era gave them. And by that standard, Bird's shorter window of all-time dominance still hits with incredible force. Here's where Kareem's perspective goes deep. He's always said greatness isn't measured by headlines or applause, it's measured by respect. And the purest form of respect is how other legends talk about you when the cameras are off and nothing is on the line anymore. When you listen to the way the giants of the game describe Larry Bird, their whole tone shifts. They don't call him the fastest, the flashiest, or the most athletic. They call him the one player who could break you mentally before the opening tip. Magic Johnson, Bird's biggest rival, once admitted Bird was the only opponent who made him genuinely nervous even when Magic was at his absolute peak. Gary Payton said Bird was the coldest trash talker he ever heard, and Michael Jordan, years after they both retired, admitted Bird was the only player who truly scared him. That's not nostalgia, that's real respect earned through psychological pressure and competitive fire. LeBron's reputation among his peers is different. They respect his preparation, his basketball IQ, and his ability to lead and carry entire squads. But it's not the same fear that Bird demanded every time he stepped onto the hardwood. Kareem believes that difference comes from how each man built his edge. Bird used psychological warfare like a weapon. He wanted to break your confidence while smiling the whole time. He'd call his shot, tell you exactly what was coming, and then hit it anyway, laughing as he ran back on defense. That wasn't arrogance. That was strategic destruction of your mindset. LeBron thrives on precision, control, and mastering the details, which makes him great. But Bird's intimidation factor lived on a whole different level entirely. LeBron approaches the game differently. He studies every matchup and every habit until the whole court slows down to his rhythm. Both styles are brilliant, but one inspires awe, while the other inspires admiration. And Kareem says that difference might be subtle, but it matters. Bird didn't just make players respect him, he made them want to take him down, face to face. Bird's rivals wanted to beat him straight up. They wanted to prove they could survive the mind games and walk out with the win. It was personal, but LeBron's rivals, especially in today's era, often want to join him instead. We've seen stars try to link up with him instead of challenging him head on, and that shift says a lot about how competition has changed. In Bird's era, personal pride came first. You proved yourself by facing the toughest opponent, not by teaming up with him. But in LeBron's era, winning championships became the main measuring stick, even if it meant joining forces with other superstars instead of going toe-to-toe. Kareem doesn't judge either mindset. He just sees two totally different philosophies on what competition truly means. There's also the emotional bond between a player and their city. Bird wasn't just playing in Boston, he was Boston. He carried the city's blue-collar edge, its toughness, its stubborn fight, its belief that hard work beats glamour every time. The fans didn't just cheer for Bird, they saw their entire identity reflected in him, and he never dipped, never chased bigger markets, never needed to rebrand himself. His greatness was locked in from day one, rooted in loyalty and identity. LeBron's journey is completely different. Cleveland, Miami, Los Angeles. His greatness is tied to movement, adaptation, and evolution. He reinvented himself with new uniforms, new teammates, and new chapters. Kareem actually relates to that since he left Milwaukee for Los Angeles too, but what stands out to him is how Bird never needed to look for the right fit. He walked into Boston already being the perfect fit, and that leads to what might be Kareem's deepest point in this whole conversation. To him, basketball has always been more than skill. It's about character. When Kareem looks at Larry Bird and LeBron James, he sees two completely different definitions of greatness. Bird represented purity. No drama, no excuses, no theatrics. He wasn't playing for cameras, brands, or narratives. He played for one single thing, the win. Everything else was background noise. LeBron represents the modern superstar, a global brand, a public voice, a symbol of professionalism in today's NBA. Kareem respects the evolution, but he also feels the essence of competition shifted along the way. Today's stars can choose teammates, manage minutes, and shape their narratives in real time. Bird never had that kind of control. His story was written in bruises, hardwood, and long nights, not press releases and podcasts. That's why Kareem's words hit with such calm authority. He's not tearing down LeBron's legacy. He's reminding people that greatness has layers. One built through survival, the other built through opportunity. Bird's greatness was carved out of discomfort, literally. He battled injuries that would sideline players for entire seasons today. His back issues were constant, with nerve pain shooting down his legs, yet he still gave Boston around 37 minutes a night until his body physically shut down. LeBron's greatness is defined by maintenance, maximizing recovery, staying sharp, and using every tool available to stay elite for 2 decades. One man conquered time through raw willpower, while the other mastered the blueprint of longevity through preparation, discipline, and modern resources. The other refused to surrender to time through science and discipline, and Kareem sees both versions of greatness as incredible achievements. But the emotional punch of Bird's era, the sacrifice, the pain, the raw pride, still hits him harder than anything else. In Kareem's eyes, the true legends all share one thing: they force the game to move at their command. Bird bent the court with anticipation and intelligence, seeing plays before they existed and attacking every defensive slip with surgical precision. LeBron bends the game with power and adaptability, overwhelming defenders or adjusting on the fly to whatever the moment demands. Both styles work, but the real difference shows up in how they made opponents feel. When Bird walked onto the floor, players felt real fear, the kind you can't shake because you know something bad is coming and there's nothing you can do to stop it. When LeBron steps out, players feel pressure. They know they can't afford mistakes or he'll dismantle their entire plan piece by piece. Bird's greatness felt personal, like he was coming at you directly. LeBron's greatness feels systematic, like you're going up against a fully dialed-in machine. Both dominate the game, but only one, in Kareem's eyes, captured the raw heart of competition as it once existed. So when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar steps in to give his view on the Birds versus LeBron debate, he's not handing out a final ruling carved in stone. He's giving perspective from someone who lived through both worlds, who saw the battles, the eras, the evolution, all with his own eyes. He's saying greatness isn't about who lasted longer, who stacked up more points, or who moved more jerseys. It's about whose presence changed the culture of the sport itself. Larry Bird did that without modern tech, luxury travel, personal branding, or protective rules. He did it through mental warfare, clutch execution, and a refusal to let opponents, or even his own damaged body, define his legacy. And in doing so, he reminded the basketball world what the game used to stand for: pure competition, ice-cold execution, and respect earned through dominance that stayed in your mind long after the buzzer. That, in Kareem's eyes, will always be the truest measure of greatness, no matter what the numbers say. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear the truth, and don't forget to subscribe for more fire stories just like this.